And the topic is what?
The topic is as I adjust
Uh-huh.
myself. The topic today is forgiveness. Is it realistic?
Well, welcome to Expose the Podcast. We just couldn't we just couldn't wait.
Right. It's always that way. We talk offline and then we're like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, hit record.
We ain't even hit record.
Hit the record button.
Yes. So yes, this is Exposed Podcast, and I'm Laverne Badger.
And I'm Natalie Hayden.
Yes, girl.
What's going
We just
on?
got back.
We did just get back and you look refreshed for sure. You like a whole snack.
I'm refreshed. I'm feeling pretty good from this vacation. These last couple ones I've been coming home feeling pretty good. And you know, sometimes you come home from vacation and you need vacation from the vacation.
Right.
And although I took that Monday off, I did a bunch of running around and other stuff, but it wasn't and tired myself out. But it wasn't because of the vacation. It was because of other stuff I had put into that Monday space. But this is what 50 is bringing me, is being able to, like I said before, is treat myself every couple months, doing something different. Sometimes that'll mean catching a flight. Sometimes that'll mean getting in the car and going up the highway.
Guess what? I'm gonna be on her coattails, y'all. She ain't leaving me behind. She ain't leaving me. I'm going wherever you going. And ask Richard if I can come too.
Right. Because I know my mission and goal for this year for doing that is not everybody else's. So sometimes I have the same people, sometimes I won't. And maybe I end up somewhere by myself, who knows?
Come on, by myself, solo vacation.
Yes. Not too far because, I'm still married. We
won't play them games.
We won't play them games.
No.
Because I wouldn't want, when the tables reversed, Richard say, "Oh, I'm going on vacation by myself." You said, no, sir. No, sir. That ain't.
You don't have those options.
I'll be stalking, right? So, but I'm feeling good. We had fun. California, that was where we were.
Yes.
And we had a new I don't want to call it a crew member, but we had a new addition to the traveling buddy. We had a new traveling buddy. She was dope, fun. The food.
Hello, somebody.
What was the name of that restaurant? I don't know, but
Christ.
It was good.
I feel like I need to pull it up on Google or something because it was that good. Hold on a second. Let me think.
That's what I love about random restaurants. Now we got to still do our research now. We ain't just showing up somewhere.
We do.
They got great reviews and it was downtown. The perfect spot. If we'd have known that spot was popping like that, we would have got up and went down a little earlier.
We would have, and we would have been like, okay, this is where we're gonna go.
Right.
I'm trying to find out. Jeez Louise. How come I can't pull it up? Because you can go to your most recent searches.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how I pull stuff. But it was a great spot. The food was good.
The salmon was cooked to perfection. What was those?
Polenta cakes.
What was it?
Polenta cakes.
I've had them before. And I just thought, they okay.
They don't really have much flavor. Creamy yellow grit, and they can be cooked and served in many forms, but we got it in a cake. Normally it's in a grit form. So
they did a little pan sear on it and a patty. First of all, they was complimentary. And then I had to share.
She got to say something about this.
I had to share.
Didn't nobody tell you to give up your polenta cake?
Oh, we got two apiece because one of our traveling buddies decided, she waited till the last minute to decide what she wanted to eat. And so when they all came out and she was like, "Well, where's mine?" And I'm like, everybody else was like, Natalie was like two apiece, looking down at her plate like, I don't know who's gonna give her one because I ain't gonna give her
I'm
one.
not giving up nothing.
And so I just didn't realize how good they were. And so I gave her one of mine, and I regret it, but not regret it, but do regret it, because that they were just that good. But the salmon was good, the carrots was it just was. I love when we go somewhere and hit a home run with food, you
Yes.
know. And so that's the goal, is to do something different and eat somewhere different that we don't have at home.
And sometimes that, for most people, I know that's a bucket list for me, is to travel the world and eat my way through it.
Yeah. Now
So
your eating is different because Natalie is a lot more adventurous in food
yeah.
than I am. I need to know the some of the main ingredients. Like I just need Natalie will try it. Just she'll just try it, and Richard is that way too. So
Yeah, if we see the ingredients and we say, "Oh, them sound like those will complement each other," we'll go with it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I trust it. And usually I'll be spot on. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of that even here in the city of Milwaukee during the summer. There's a lot of new spaces and a lot of new restaurants that are popping up and have gotten a nice surge from I think the financial support in the industry for restaurants. So I'm really excited about the food journey for this summer here in the city of Milwaukee, even
yes.
around Wisconsin. I just really want to re-explore our city again. There are some
I
places,
know.
I think when we talk about vacationing, I think it's nice to just vacation in your backyard too.
Yeah,
We
this
haven't been outside in a while and the
have
world is
not.
opening back up, and we don't necessarily need a passport or a ticket to get on a plane to enjoy some great food and a
Right.
different scenery. But I know one thing we do agree on is that we will be using TSA pre-check moving forward. Did y'all get your tickets? Because don't nobody got time for that line.
We almost missed that flight, and we was running through the airport like OJ commercial, that commercial before he knocked off his wife allegedly, when he was a superstar. And we was running through the airport, we was checking, like Natalie was like checking us in, checking bags in. I'm trying to pay the cab driver. We running down the aisle. She only will fit one, so the rest of us is about to pass out.
That's a lie.
And
That is a lie.
the rest of us about to pass out because we try to keep up, right? And then got slowed down at security. The line was ridiculously long, but it went through pretty quickly, and then got
Yes.
stuck at once our stuff got on there. But all in all, it was just even with all of that, it was a wonderful trip.
It was an
absolutely
adventure for
wonderful.
sure. You
Yeah.
definitely felt your heart beating a little bit.
Yes. So doing things that we don't have regrets about and don't have to ask for forgiveness about, like just moving forward. And
yeah.
that brings up today's topic of forgiveness.
Because there are some things that we do actually have to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, like I know for me, it's a pride issue. That's really the heart. That's the heart of the issue, is pride.
It's pride. Yeah. And pain.
Yeah.
Pride and pain. Because so here's the thing. We know all the books, all the great gurus, self-help, self-care, have said forgiveness is not for you, for the other person. Forgiveness is for you, that you need to forgive people so that you can move on. And I think that so of course it's easier said than done. So we can say, I forgive you, and move on and try to build from that. But is it really forgiveness? How can you know that you have truly forgiven somebody, because the forgetness never goes away?
No,
So
it doesn't.
how do you forgive without having the ability to forget?
I mean, I think
That's the
That's
challenge.
that is a huge challenge because a person can say all day, I forgive you, but I don't forget. And a person like me, if I was on the receiving end of it and I'm looking for forgiveness, but I also want your actions to not treat me differently, right?
Right.
But with forgiveness, the person that's doing the forgiving, they typically have to then set up a boundary, if that makes sense. I mean, it's almost
It
like
makes sense because that's where the forgiveness doesn't, because I can forgive you, but it doesn't come with no strings attached. It
yeah, it
still
doesn't come with
comes.
full access
Right. Right. Because I have to move differently
with you.
with you. But then the recipient of the forgiveness, the person who you're forgiving, to them it looks like you haven't forgiven.
Or
It
you're
looks
acting funny.
right, right, right. So
Mhm.
I know if you're on the other end of that forgiveness, you want people to forgive you. Once they say they forgive you, you want them to forget. You
That is
want them,
true.
it's like you want a clean slate. And I don't know. That's why this topic is it really realistic? Because you can't really, at least I haven't gotten there to say that I could forgive somebody, because I've forgiven people before.
Mhm.
And I've forgiven my kid's father in the abuse that
Inflicted.
he put upon me. He
Mhm.
asked for that forgiveness through one of our daughters.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time he asked for it, it was years ago. Probably a good 20 years ago. No, maybe about, I don't know, between 17, 18 years ago.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like I didn't believe that it was real. It was the way it was said. And I was still angry, like get
Mhm.
off my face kind of thing. Like I don't want to hear that. But then when he sent it a couple years ago, he sent it through a text message to one of our kids, our daughters, and said, I read your mom's book and I want her to know if you can relay the message to tell her that I'm sorry and could she forgive me. And I had sat there and thought about it for a second, literally a second, not even that long. It wasn't that long, where I was like, text him back and let him know and tell him I accept his apology and I forgive him.
Mhm.
Because something in that moment made me feel like if I can change and evolve,
Mhm.
then he can possibly change and evolve and try to make some of his wrongs right. Now, do I ever want to ever see him in life again? Absolutely not. Would I ever trust him? Absolutely not.
So wouldn't we say that it's safe to say that forgiveness is a process? And that's how I've taken it. Forgiveness is a process. And I just really want to go over like the true definition of what forgiveness reads in the dictionary. So
Okay.
it says psychologist generally defines the get forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards a person or a group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, nor does it mean condoning or excuses offenses. So that is the point. That's where it's at for me. It's where even though someone does not deserve it, because if I want to go biblical and spiritually, none of us deserves grace and mercy, but we get it
Right.
because we're human beings and we all fall short and we are all sinful beings. Now, do we constantly be intentionally go out and do wrong things, some of us, but I think for the most part as human beings we want to do our best to not do that.
Right.
But we also have this nature in this relationship with God where our sins are forgiven, and only God can be the only one that can throw it in the sea of forgetfulness. That we don't have that responsibility. So
Right.
therefore, we know how to forgive, but we do not forget. That's what makes us human.
That's exactly what makes us human. Because even if we want to forgive in all forms of forgiveness, something always somehow will trigger the memory of something, and then it can have you right back in the same space as to why you needed to forgive that person in the first place, which hence why you say you have to create boundaries. So
Yeah.
those boundaries have to be created so that you don't fall prey to being hurt in that specific way again by that individual. However, time can create some loosening of those boundaries, or expansion of those boundaries,
Yeah.
as time goes on. And then people, if those people are still in your life on a regular basis, that they then can earn certain privileges to you back by
Yeah, it's a
action,
trust issue
through their
too.
actions. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a trust issue. I think when you decide to forgive someone, and you say, for instance, you have not entirely cut them out of your life, they have not lost all privileges to you. However, there is a trust building that has to happen. And
Right.
over time, like you said, with time, then we can see, okay, I'm still trying to, do I want to trust this person? I have forgiven them. Are they worthy? Do they have the privilege to have more space in this limited space that I've given them? And with some people, they can earn that trust, not full trust, but they can earn that trust back.
Back.
But
Or
most,
they reveal themselves to not deserve it. And so
absolutely, yes.
then they will reveal themselves to be the same individual that
Mhm.
you had the issue with, or there was an issue within the relationship to begin with. Or they give you something new where it's these signs that say maybe this isn't a person that should be in your space anyway. But when, it's easier said than done when it's friendships versus
Family.
intimate family versus intimate relationships.
Yeah, they're the difference.
There's a difference. Friendships are hard to get rid of, but I think they're a little easier when um if a person keep hurting you. You like,
Right.
bump this, F this, like I'm done with you. But then family is a little bit harder because you love them, you care for them, but then you're like, I need to, because they're family, you try to take an extra effort to make things right, or to build a bridge, especially if the other person is trying to do that as well.
It almost feels
None
like
of this
family is a
works.
pass.
None of this works if the other person that we're talking about is in agreement. One, they have to admit that you were hurt, and that either you
Mhm.
hurt them there, or dual hurt, or that there was something negative that happened in that relationship that needed to be forgiven. If someone is not open to receiving the feedback of how you hurt me,
How they contributed to that.
yeah, then
Mhm.
that it's not going to work. Because I can't say that you did this to me and you're always trying to defend why you did this. Now, I always say, we can give a reason. It's not an excuse, but we all have a reason as to why we do certain things. Now, you
Right.
can give me your reason and explain why you did something,
Mhm.
but it's not an excuse as to why you did it. Like
Mhm.
a murder, a rapist, murderer, domestic abuser, he can tell me why. He can explain why, but it still doesn't excuse your behavior. There's still consequences to the behavior. And so what I'm trying to say is that if they don't understand the or acknowledge what they have done, it's just not, that's not going to work. And it'll rear its ugly head again, even if you try to force it to work. And then friendships are the ones that tend to be forced,
Right.
You want to say, oh, well, I don't have to be around that person all the time. But if you're around that person and your energy shifts, then you're not over it,
Right.
whether yeah. And so that's where I think it comes into play, where the forgiveness is for you. Because if my energy is shifting when I'm around you, even though I may see you once a year, then I haven't forgiven you. And that is when it becomes problematic for me,
For
because I don't
you.
want to walk into a room and somebody I ain't seen in forever can truly take me up on my element. That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
And what point do you feel that who has to, and this is going to be interesting, who should bring it up? I feel like it's the person who has the issue.
Right. But when people say, but when, okay, so what you mean by who has the issue? So could
Yeah.
the person who was forgiven has an issue, or it still can be the person who said they forgave can
It could be,
still have an
it
issue.
really can be both. I feel like when there is an offense, and clearly to me, like there is an offense when you had to forgive someone for something, or someone needed to be forgiven for something. And I feel like if a person is still having, an issue, whoever the person is that has the issue, they really should bring it to that person. Sometimes people are not aware that they've even offended you and that they need to be forgiven for something. I've just forgiven people just because, I just need to forgive them, but they don't even know they did anything wrong. And I'm the one that's wrong.
That's a problem.
That's a
And that's
problem.
where it gets complicated, because if you're not around a person all the time, or if they're not that relevant to you, why do I need to have a conversation with you that you did something wrong to me? So because then when we have our next encounter, I'm
You're
feeling
going to be
some type
feeling
of
a
way.
certain way.
Yeah, I'm feeling some type of way, but they have no clue that I'm feeling some type of way.
So it's really
Because you
your
haven't.
responsibility. It's your responsibility to say something, because you are the one that has the issue.
Absolutely. You're right.
Yeah.
So it's a responsibility on both parts. So
Right.
if I don't know, I don't like conflict in the way of, I'm one of those people that if I'm not around you that much, I don't feel like I necessarily need to bring it up. But even
Mhm.
if I'm around you a lot, I have to really weigh the options to say, and look at that relationship to say, I'm gonna say something. So the relationship with, like, just my husband being married, I have to say something. He ain't going nowhere. Otherwise, it's gonna it's gonna fester.
He ain't going nowhere.
It's gonna fester and turn into something else, right?
Mhm.
It turns into something else, and it builds and it builds, and eventually it will explode um, on something, and he has no clue
Mm.
because I didn't say anything. But that's an easy one, because that's somebody I'm with every day. But it's those, like, work relationships,
Yeah.
coworkers,
Mhm.
coworkers. I don't know. I think the bottom line, I think, is that, one, forgiveness is work.
A process.
It is a process. I think people throw around forgiveness as if we're Jesus. We ain't Jesus. We're humans, and so being able to forgive is not as easy as saying I forgive you. I hate when people be like, I forgive you. No, you don't. You really don't.
Mhm.
I just, how do you know you forgive me? I remember um Richard someone asking for his forgiveness, and it'll be his story to tell, but someone asking for his forgiveness, and he said, no, I'm not ready to forgive you right now.
Oh, that's honest. And that's
And
honest. Many of us are not honest about it,
yeah,
you know?
and time had gone by, and I was surprised to hear that response. Like, oh, you still bothered by that? And I think part of me feels like because a real conversation has not happened
Mm-hmm.
for him to truly express the pain and hurt and betrayal that happened, around that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't think you can ever get to that space until you have those kind of conversations, whether a person wants to listen to it or not. And
Now,
so that,
when you say whether a person wants to listen to it or not, I mean, what
because Diana
benefit?
says that you can write, you can put it in written form,
Okay, okay, okay.
and put all those, get it all out of you
Mm-hmm.
and onto paper. So because that goes with, what if the person that you need to forgive is gone, deceased?
Right.
How do you still get that out of you, you know, once you're ready to forgive?
Mm-hmm.
And she said that's how you do it, in written form. And so I don't know. That was some years ago, so I don't know where he is right now with that. But that's just an example of being able to, and my observation of saying that it's hard to forgive when you can't communicate your pain.
Yeah, yeah.
We want people to know they hurt us. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. They need to like feel and hear like and it requires, so check this out. This is another element to it, because when someone has like broken trust and you don't in some type of way, they have not earned your trust. It's tough to go back and sit and be vulnerable with them again.
Right,
Do you
right,
really want to like, expose yourself to being vulnerable with someone that has not taken or has taken you for granted, and you're in the very spot of why you have to like say they need forgiveness or whatever. But it's really tough and challenging, so it's a process on both ends of the party, and sometimes a person may not even be working on their end because like you said, they may not know, or they've moved on with life and you're still stuck feeling a certain way
stuck.
about it. You still stuck. And
Right,
so I don't want to be stuck. I need to I need to make
right,
sure
right.
I'm having a conversation about it.
A conversation to those relevant relationships. Again, you have people, we have to identify what's worthy of our peace.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
that's and we can say, oh, we want these toxic people out of, we can get rid of toxic people. But if it's a toxic person that really hurt and damaged you, just removing them from out of your life don't all is not always enough.
No.
It's not always enough. And then we also, once we forgive, we got to do the work. Like you said, it's a process. We got to do the work to make sure that we're not making a person constantly
Pay.
apologize to us.
Yeah, yeah, and paying.
That
Like they feel like
that
they're forever in debt.
that feel right. That feels good. Like I had I have not had. I have a friend who, her past, she was an addict,
Mm-hmm.
and she her kids grew up with her as an addict, and um completely sober for many, many 20 plus years, doing amazing in life right now.
Mm-hmm.
But they recall that time. And so for years, she allowed, I feel like she allowed them to beat her up on a regular basis for the childhood, she did not give, the mother she was not to them,
Mm-hmm.
because she was an addict.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always trying to apologize or show through gifts,
Mm.
shower with gifts and things to try to show that you're sorry. But I just remember her saying one year, I'm done. I can't keep doing this. I don't know how many more times I can apologize. I'm not gonna keep getting abused in a sense for something I did those many years ago. And
Yeah.
and so I totally 100% understand her then saying, I took ownership of it. I took accountability.
Acknowledgement. Yep.
I acknowledged it, and I even tried to um, rectify it by superficial stuff. But I can't keep subject. She couldn't keep subjecting herself to that when they got mad at her,
Yeah.
and so then that goes back to them having to do the work. They,
Right.
your kids have to do the work to say, how do I forgive my mom without continuing to bash her or hold her to the fire for the past.
Right. Right. Right.
It's tough. That it's a tough relationship. Um,
Mhm.
and as we know, addicts are people who are addicts don't. And I've never been an addict of any sort of drugs or alcohol. It's just based on family members and things I've heard, or that you are not you. You
Mhm.
are the addiction.
Mhm.
And people are, and you have to allow to understand that to separate, seems like you would have to allow yourself to be able to identify those as two different people.
Right. 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 Right.
The
Yep.
addict and then the sober individual that I love, but they're one of the same, but they're different when it comes to forgiveness. If I am going to forgive you, I need to forgive you, the addict, and forgive you, the individual, I would think.
Right.
So,
Right.
but it's just, it goes back to, you got to do the work.
We got to do the work. So
You got to do the
the
work.
work that we do and the things that we have gone through as far as overcoming abuse, there was a requirement, I think, initially when I started doing the work with my therapist, was to forgive myself. And it's tough to forgive yourself when you've allowed yourself to just be treated a certain way, to be viewed a certain way, to be to really not even recognize yourself in a sense and be just so out of touch with who you are as a human being. And so I think it's really necessary for one to forgive ourselves, and that too is a process.
That's a
And so,
process.
when you're overcoming anything, whether it's addiction, abuse, um a bad grade from whatever, you got to find a way to forgive yourself first. And
Right.
when you take on that initiative, I'm not going to say that forgiving others becomes easier, but you can definitely understand that, if you can recognize within yourself that you make mistakes and you're not going to be perfect, and then you can walk in somebody else's shoes and not fully, we don't fully understand why people do what they do, but you can at least say, well, you know what? I know what it takes and what it requires to offer up forgiveness to myself. So at the
Right.
very least, I know this is going to help with my peace. Let me start that process,
Right.
and sometimes, like you said, the first process is acknowledging, so
You have to
acknowledgement.
acknowledge. You have to acknowledge. Both sides have to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge that it bothered you. That if you're on the victim side, you have to acknowledge that there was an issue. You can't say, oh, that's just that person. That's how they are. That's their personality. They didn't really mean it. You can't do that. You have to acknowledge that this is something that happened to you and that it bothered you and it affected you. And then
Yeah.
on the other end, the person who did it has to acknowledge and admit and take accountability for what they did. Otherwise,
Hmm.
it's never going to work. It's not that. Yeah, forgiveness doesn't work that way.
Yes, it doesn't. And I think you said a piece earlier where someone has gone on, like some people do not have an opportunity to have that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
or someone is just not in the space or mentally capable of having a realistic conversation about what they did to another person. And then also, some of us are just not ready to sit down and, like we said, be vulnerable with someone that has hurt us over and over and over again. So I
Right.
would rather, like write it down and draft a letter or something to start the process for myself
Right.
and then see, and see what happens. You never know. I don't want to cancel anything out, but I think it's really necessary for us to constantly talk about forgiveness because we all are going to disappoint not only
That part.
ourselves but each other,
That part.
and so you're going to need forgiveness, you're going to need to be forgiving, you're going to need to give forgiveness. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Right.
it's like this cycle that we have to constantly be aware of. And even as thrivers, you have not arrived. You still gonna need forgiveness, baby.
It is definitely, I got 4 biological kids and 4 um bonus kids, and at any moment moving forward, which and has happened in the past where I've had to say, I'm sorry, like forgive me
Yeah.
for that, and own it, whatever it is, own it as painful as it can be.
Yeah.
I have to own it. And so I know it won't be the last time I ask for,
Forgiveness.
forgiveness. I know it won't be the last time, but
Let me
hopefully
get mine out the way real quick with you, Vern. Please forgive me. Forgive me
forgive me for
for I
anything
do
I'm
not know
about
what
to
I
do,
do.
right? Anything I'm about to do. So yeah, if God blesses me to live, continue to live, I know that I'm gonna do something that is not perfect, that I may consciously or unconsciously may need to ask forgiveness because I've offended or hurt or someone, which hence
Mhm.
the No More Mean Girls. Our pledge for the normal No More Mean Girls is not that we stop that behavior and never gonna hey Maddie. I got that's my grandbaby.
Grandbaby Maddie.
We was almost off of here, girl. We almost made it.
Almost. But guess
But
what? We're living life.
we live in life. And the the I forgot my train of thought, but
No more
she
mean
made
girls. It's
but the no
okay.
more yes, but the No More Mean Girls pledge does not say we stop what were our actions. Like we're perfect moving forward after we take that pledge. Not.
No. No.
It just means that we still may have some mean girl behaviors or tendency of moving forward, but we're going to make sure that we're trying to be as conscious as possible to change that behavior. So, and maybe I was doing it, I don't know, 50 times a year. Maybe
Mhm.
now I'm only doing it 10 times a year or 5
Right.
times a year
Right.
because I'm more conscious of it now. And
Mhm.
so forgive me. I just walk around with a bumper sticker that says forgive me. You know what I'm saying? Cutting somebody
Yeah.
off in the road, forgive me because I was thinking about something else and I wasn't thinking about that I needed to put my signal on. You know what I'm saying? So just I don't know. Let's think about what forgiveness means to us. And we're here to say forgiveness is not one of those things where you just do. Forgiveness is a process.
It is. It
And you
is.
have to want it. Both parties have to want it.
Both parties. Yes, I agree. Dude, that was a nice little roundup.
That was good. I'm just like, yes, we as I get older and as you reflect on when you just do a lot of reflecting. I don't even think
Mhm.
it's getting older necessarily, but as you reflect, we just do there's things you just wish you had done differently.
Right,
Things
right.
that you look at and realize that there's some people that are the closest to you that you've hurt,
Mhm.
and you can't take it back, and you hope that there's enough grace to allow for them to forgive you for that. And that's all I would want.
Right,
That
right.
grace to apologize and be forgiven for whatever I've done to someone.
Right. Wow. Forgiveness is full
It's
circle.
powerful. It's
It's
powerful.
powerful. It is powerful for you, it's powerful for other people. And so I'm just thankful to have you for sure to help me and remind me of how we can make forgiveness more realistic, to understand that it is a process. It is not something that we just put a stamp on and say it's one and done, but
Right.
we have to really walk this thing out. So yeah, that's our real combo for today, y'all.
Yes. Real talk. Real talk.
Yeah.
So, all right, beautiful face. Another one for the books.
Another one for the books, y'all. Well, I'm Natalie Hayden,
And I'm Laverne Badger.
and we'll see you guys next week, Wednesday.
All right.
Signing off,
Yeah.
guys. Bye.